Love and War of a Samurai, also known as Semi Shigure, is a 7-part NHK miniseries that released in 2004. It was based on a novel by the excellent writer Shuhei Fujisawa. For those of you that don't know him, Fujisawa is an award-winning writer that has published over 50 books. This includes both full-length novels and short story anthologies. The focus of his writing was historical fiction, and it mainly had to do with feudal Japan. More importantly though, his stories make some excellent samurai films. His most famous stories are the Yoji Yamada Samurai Trilogy, which included the Oscar nominee Twilight Samurai. His stories usually don't have the most action, yet somehow they remain extremely engaging, and this is probably because they focus on character drama that has to do with the time period. Feudal Japan is a fascinating time period, and Fujisawa does things that no other samurai stories do, and Love and War of a Samurai is a perfect example of this. So honestly, there really isn't that much information on the series, and the only reason I know about it is because Merlin from SamuraiDVD.com recommended it to me and gave me the film. He has an entire selection of films by Fujisawa, and most of them you can't really get anywhere else, so I highly advise checking it out. This series has a very similar story to Love and Honor, and has to do with those very same themes. It follows a very unlucky samurai named Maki Bunshiro. His father is falsely accused of being a traitor and is forced to commit harakiri.
そういうことだ。切腹ですか？それはまだだ。
Bunshiro's family then faces humiliation, and his childhood friend Fuku, which is a girl that he loves, is ordered to serve the lord in Edo, basically as a concubine, and thus this destroys any hope for a future they had together. So depressed, Bunshiro then dedicates his life to continuing his study of fencing, and he becomes an excellent swordsman that no one else can match. But of course, more dangers always lie ahead, and there's a skilled swordsman named Inokai, which is after Bunshiro, and he was actually sent by the same corrupt official that had created the false accusations against his father. So this is very much a coming-of-age story, and despite me not really being a fan of those, I ended up really liking this story. We get to see Bunshiro and his friends as kids, and then we get to see them grow up and become adults, and we watch where their story arcs end up. It was interesting because not all of them get to be a samurai. We see one friend that was a weak kid and not cut out to be a fighter. He ends up becoming a scholar, and he moves to the city life of Edo, and we get to see just how different the city makes him compared to his friends that live in a more country environment. This series has its fair share of sword fights, and I was actually kind of surprised by the amount of them, as Fujisawa's other stories had very little. The fights aren't exactly well choreographed, and you could kind of tell it was made for TV, but it got its point across, and it's still realistic in the fact that it doesn't use any CGI or special effects. Most importantly is the fights have a sense of suspense and stake. The cinematography was actually quite impressive, and despite it being a made-for-TV series, and while at times it did feel like that, but most of the time I was actually surprised by just the amount of well-framed shots that we got, and overall the filming feels very natural. The acting is surprisingly well done, and the actor that plays the lead really nails it. We feel his regret and pain about all the misfortunes in his life. We especially see the pain in his face about not being able to be with the woman he loves. We see in his face exactly how he feels without him saying any words. I also enjoy the actors that played his friends, and you really feel the warmth and love they had for each other. You'd actually think that they were real childhood friends. In the film, it is stated that we cannot get through life without regret, and it gives us a rather bittersweet ending involving this very theme. It really leaves you thinking about what's going to happen next to these characters, and that's always a trait for a great story. Anyway, it's an excellent series, and I really want to thank Merlin for giving it to me, because otherwise I probably never would have known about it, and that would have been a real shame. I find it strange how a great series like this, along with Fujisawa's other films, aren't more well known. So I am recommending this series to everyone. It's well paced, and it kept my interest for all 7 parts, which were about 40-minute episodes. I'll also add that it has a theatrical version, which was great, and it changed a few minor details, but still I prefer the 7-part series as you get more development in the story and characters. The series just has really excellent characters, and there's a villain that you really hate. It also shows the tragedy that everyone faces in life, and it points to how sometimes you could just be a victim just because of the time period that you were born in. But to never give up no matter what, and sometimes things do get better. So now you have a chance to see something really great, and I highly recommend you watch this along with Shuhei Fujisawa's other films. Anyway, thanks for watching.
父上